Alaska Airlines Flight 261. It started as a normal Monday morning flight. January 31, 2088, people boarded Alaska Airlines Flight 261 in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, expecting to land in San Francisco a few hours later. Nobody had any idea this plane would never reach the runway, somewhere over the Pacific Ocean. The crew began noticing something wrong with the horizontal stabilizer, the part of the tail that controls the nose of the plane going up or down. They reported a jammed jack screw. They stayed calm. They told passengers nothing. Then the plane nosed over, completely inverted. Flight 261 plunged from 17,000 feet at nearly 4 miles per hour into the Pacific Ocean. The fall took less than 80 seconds. Investigators later pulled the jack screw from the ocean floor and found something that stopped the room cold. It had not been properly lubricated, a routine maintenance task. Skipped that tiny, overlooked detail, stripped the threads down to nothing, and robbed the pilots of any control over the aircraft. 88 passengers, 2 pilots, 2 flight attendants. Not one survived. The ocean swallowed them whole. What brought an entire airliner down was not bad weather, not a bomb, not engine failure. It was a grease job that never happened. Learjet, Teterboro crash. February 16, 2005, Teterboro Airport, New Jersey. A small Learjet, 25, is taxiing for takeoff. Inside are 2 pilots and a charter crew. The plane looks fine. The weather is fine. Everything looks fine. It wasn't. The jet accelerates down runway 6, and almost immediately something feels wrong to the crew. The aircraft is not lifting cleanly. Instead of climbing, it struggles. It overshoots the runway end, crashes into a warehouse on the other side of a busy highway, tearing through the building and catching fire. By some miracle, nobody on the ground is killed. Both pilots survive, critically injured. What went wrong? Investigators dug into the pre-flight records and found that the Learjet had taken off over its maximum allowable weight. The crew had miscalculated the load. They never ran proper weight and balance numbers before departure. One simple failure in the pre-flight checklist. That is all it took. The jet never had a chance to fly correctly because it was never ready to fly in the first place. Aviation runs on checklists for exactly this reason. The moment a crew skips one, the sky becomes far less forgiving. This wreckage, smoldering in a New Jersey warehouse, was the proof. U.S. Airways Flight 1702, March 13, 2014, Philadelphia International Airport. U.S. Airways Flight 1702 begins its takeoff roll, headed for Fort Lauderdale. 149 people are on board. The engines roar. The speed builds. And then, something terrifying happens before the plane even leaves the ground. The nose gear collapses. The aircraft scrapes and skids down the runway at full takeoff speed. Metal grinding on concrete. Sparks flying, passengers screaming. The plane finally grinds to a halt on the runway surface. Incredibly, everyone survives, though dozens are injured. What caused this? The crew had forgotten to disengage the nose wheel, steering tiller before initiating the takeoff roll. That created abnormal stress on the nose gear at exactly the wrong moment. It failed under pressure it was never designed to handle during a takeoff sequence, a step that takes about 2 seconds. Overlooked in the rush and routine of another flight? Investigators noted this as a procedural error. Simple as that. 149 lives dangling over catastrophe. Because of a missed moment in the cockpit, the plane never left the ground. But the terror of those seconds on that runway was as real as any crash at altitude. Addison Airport King Air Crash. June 30, 2024. Addison Airport, Texas. A beach King Air 350 begins its takeoff roll on a clear summer morning. 10 people on board. A weekend trip, nobody expecting anything but smooth skies and a clean landing somewhere else. The plane lifts off, climbs just barely above the airport fence line, and then rolls hard to the left and dives straight into a hangar. The explosion is immediate. All 10 people on board are killed. Several cars on the ground are destroyed. The investigation revealed something goofy. Before departure, the plane's propeller condition levers had been left in the wrong position. This severely limited power output from the engines during the most critical phase of flight, the climb after takeoff. The aircraft simply could not sustain itself in the air with that configuration. The pilots may not have caught it in time, or at all. One setting. On a single pair of levers, 10 people gone in seconds. The wreckage burned in the Texas summer heat, while the question hung in the air. How does something this preventable still happen? That is what makes this crash haunt aviation investigators to this day. Helios Airways, Flight 522, August 14, 2005, a Boeing 737 departs Cyprus, climbing toward cruising altitude over the Mediterranean. Everything appears normal from the outside, but inside that cabin, something silent and invisible is already killing everyone on board. The pressurization system switch had been left in the wrong position. During a maintenance check the night before, manual instead of automatic, nobody caught it during preflight. As the plane climbed, the cabin silently the crew was incapacitated by hypoxia, oxygen deprivation before they fully understood what was happening. Passengers lost consciousness, one by one. The plane flew on autopilot like a ghost aircraft for hours while Greek Air Force jets intercepted it. Unable to raise anyone on the radio, one flight attendant, a trained rescue diver, was found in the cockpit trying to control the plane in the final minutes. He had survived on portable oxygen. He could not save it. Flight 522 struck a hillside north of Athens, killing all 121 people on board. The switch that doomed them all was the size of your thumb. Left in the wrong position after a routine maintenance check, that is all it was. A switch. And 121 people never came home because of it. Northwest Airlink Flight 5719, December 1, 1993. Hibbing, Minnesota. A Northwest Airlink commuter plane descends through thick cloud cover toward Chisholm-Hibbing Airport. 18 people on board? A short regional hop, the kind flown dozens of times a day across the country. The plane never levels off. It strikes trees on a hillside at nearly 200 miles per hour. Still in a descent, everyone on board dies. Emergency crews reach the scene in the dark, Minnesota winter, and find almost nothing intact. The investigation discovered the crew had been descending on the wrong altimeter setting. They had not properly cross-checked their instruments during approach. They believed they were at a safe altitude. They were not. The terrain came up fast and silent through the clouds, and there was no time. Spatial disorientation. And low visibility is one of the most dangerous conditions in aviation. And this crew, fatigued and possibly distracted, missed the cross-check that could have caught the error. 18 lives taken not by a mechanical failure, not by a storm, but by a number one incorrect number on an instrument panel in the dark. That is how fragile the margin is between a routine flight and a disaster that shocks an entire country.